Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
10 Saw films, 11 if you count Spiral. It's very rare for any franchise to hit that milestone or get that many sequels greenlit. But if any genre is going to have it, then it's the horror genre. And even then, only a few ever reached the 10th installment. So Saw sits alongside the Halloween and Friday the 13th franchises, which despite all three franchises having plenty of dodgy installments to meet that marker, it's still quite the achievement. Whilst the gory traps are what have kept the franchise afloat as its main commercial draw, I've always found that John Kramer or Jigsaw is the more interesting aspect of it all, despite his early death in the franchise. So back in the early 2000s, when I was a young warthog, seeing the first three Saw movies for the first time, it wasn't the grim visuals nor the bloody scenes that made me sit up and take note. It was the idea that we have this old man dying of brain cancer, John Kramer, who, on account of the tragic miscarriage of his son, subsequent divorce, and brain cancer diagnosis, decides to set the world to rights in his own personal and twisted way as the alias Jigsaw. But that idea of taking bad people, putting them in horrific mechanisms, and then offering them the choice to save their own lives at the expense of losing something in return, with the purpose of reforming these people and changing their bad ways, was always presented in a kind of interesting, kind of justifiable but perverse sense of logic kind of way. That to me is more fascinating, the way this villain or perhaps an anti-hero worked. Yet after his death in the franchise, everything falls apart and it was just all about the horrific violence or what was termed torture porn. A term which doesn't make sense. I mean, no one is getting off on this, are they? Well, maybe some of you, you sick fuck. Really though, the series sets out to shock you with these gory scenes, and we as an audience want to feel something, especially in horror movies. Sadly, the grey areas of morality in John Kramer's vision itself has kind of been lost in the sequels until Saw 10. This is a movie about John Kramer, and this is a revenge movie. Yes, someone messes with the wrong guy.
Ever notice how you come across somebody once in a while that you shouldn't have fucked with?
It's the John Wick of the Saw movies, and that is really refreshing. Usually these films revolve around the victims, and we slowly learn what links them all whilst watching them try to, and nearly always fail, to escape the traps. This then culminates with a twist of some sort at the end. But here we focus on John Kramer and his story. That's not to say it avoids the usual gruesome trap escape scenes. It has plenty. But the best part of the movie, in my view, is the first quarter when we focus on John and not his alias Jigsaw. The story has some obvious twists and familiar beats to fans, even some familiar faces return, but I will admit the end twist, it did stump me until it happened. So don't worry, Saw fans, you will get your obligatory brutal twist scene complete with the usual iconic "you done fucked up" theme music. So from a story perspective, it's pretty good, and it's well written and performed, which for a horror movie can be a rarity. The writers know the formula now, and they know John Kramer, and all I can say is that it works perfectly for what it sets out to be. It's well paced, the dialogue isn't clunky, and it's well acted. Yes, well acted. It seems horror movies never get plaudits for their actors. I know that's because usually half of them play brain-dead horny teenagers, but still.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
Tobin Bell as John Kramer or Jigsaw gives it his all, and that's impressive for 81 years old. And also the ensemble cast are really good, especially the ringleader of the group Kramer gets his revenge on. This ringleader is a really great character, someone who will refuse to die, is cold, ruthless, and they really add the needed element to the trap sections to stop them from becoming stale. Additionally, despite the fact the movie is meant to take place in what is really the early 2000s, so around the time of the original three films, there's no de-aging for John Kramer or anyone else. And honestly, I couldn't care less about it. So just enjoy the ride and forget about the small stuff.
Forget about it!
In terms of the visuals, it's the same grimy green, brown tinted filter, and it's the same let's just put people in a warehouse for most of the movie scenario. It's fine. It doesn't break the mold. It's technically still very good. The director is no slouch, but no one asked him to be Scorsese.
But you know what? The damn thing is, you got to be serious about making a picture.
The story, writing, and acting, it all works. They've refined everything into what makes these films work. Musically and from a sound design perspective, there's not much to say. The classic Saw theme is there and everything sounds brutal and disgusting as ever. And last but not least, I have to talk about the traps. Are they any good? That's the million-dollar question.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
Yes and no. Are they brutal? Did I kind of crease up and cringe while watching? Yeah, I did. But are they particularly creative? Not really. And compared to a couple of scenes in the phenomenal Talk to Me, I actually found them less gruesome than that movie, despite there being a lot more things being chopped off and pulled out in Saw 10. And FYI, go see Talk to Me, it's amazing. So as touched upon, the film ends up in a warehouse with all the traps set up in one central area. So there's no more wandering around through rooms and finding the traps, which I think is a shame. This movie must have cost very little just to maximize profits, and that's fine. But putting everyone in one room, I think is a bit of a cop-out. The traps all relate to the wrongdoing that was performed on John Kramer, which is fine as well. But I did think that the time limits on the traps were too harsh. Although, I guess that's the point. The movie sells because we want to see the victims fail the test and be brutally killed. That's what sells.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I just feel like it kind of defeats the point a bit when John Kramer is giving these individuals an opportunity to save themselves and redeem themselves, but you're not actually giving them a reasonable chance. I guess, like I said, this is standard fare for the movies, but for one which is so focused on John Kramer like Saw 10, it would have maybe helped enhance the more interesting grey area of whether he is a villain or some kind of vigilante. Saw 10 is brutal for sure, it's just not as creative in its traps as I think it could have been. In summary, Saw 10 is a really good Saw movie, and it's a decent horror to boot. In terms of where I would rank it in the franchise, I think this is the third best Saw movie after the first and the third movie, which I think is high praise. So I recommend this for Saw fans and also newcomers. Although for the newcomers, you might wonder who some characters are, but it's not essential. They're basically in there for fan service more than anything. And remember, there is a mid-credit sequence which ties up one loose end that you might be wondering about at the conclusion. So yeah, go see it. Go see Saw 10. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And let me know what you thought of Saw 10 if you've seen it. And what are your top 3 Saw movies? Let me know in the comments. Alright, see you next time. See ya.